I just got back from seeing Danny Boyle's new horror movie 28 Years Later, the sequel to 28 Days Later, written by Alex Garland and directed by Danny Boyle. When a group of survivors of the rage virus live on a small island, when one of the groups leave the island on a mission into the mainland, he discovers secrets, wonders, and horrors that have mutated not only the infected, but other survivors. So this will be a spoiler-free review. So to get into this, with 28 Years Later, I will say I really did, find this movie very interesting because it took some twists and turns that I was not expecting. With like the first 30 to 40 minutes of the film, we kind of get thrown back into that same type of world that we left off with 28 Days Later, and later in the film it kind of takes this crazy turn and transition to a different type of story that I feel that could have people in a different feeling of this movie, but it could also have people that love that twist and turn that it takes. Now this movie really, I feel it was a beautiful movie. The cinematography was great. And fun fact, this movie was actually shot on iPhones. So I could not even tell. But I will say, with this film, the characters were amazing. I really did love the characters. I love the character Jamie. He was actually the father to the little boy Spike, and Spike was literally MVP of this movie. Like, I really feel like this is one of the best child actors that I've seen in a while on a screen. I was really invested in him. I was really just, want to see what's going to happen with the little boy Spike and everything. But the movie basically kicks off with this dad basically wanting to take his son out and get him prepared for everything that they're dealing with in this apocalyptic world. Now, it's not just that father-son story where the father is forcing the son to do this, and the son's like, okay, dad, I'll do it. I want to do this. I want to be just like you. It's not like that. It's different with this kid, Spike. He actually is afraid. He's actually nervous. He knows that it's a dangerous world out there in the universe that this is taking place in. He knows that, you can die behind this, but his dad is being a father, and he's basically telling his son that you have to do this. I have to make sure that you're prepared just in case if something happened to me or if stuff hits the fan. You have to be willing to hold your own. And from there on, we just see a lot of stuff kind of domino from there. Man, I'm not going to lie, bro. The way that they have to take to get to the spot where the infected are, it was literally, I don't know what they even call the feeling that I had. It just made me super nervous. Like, I really hope that it's something, in the world that is not like that, because that was actually creepy. If you guys know, then it was basically taking place in that scene where they're getting to the infected island or whatever, like that body of water. That was actually crazy. Now, moving on to the point where they're at a point now where they end up going to this island, and then the infected comes, and they have to end up staying overnight until, the next day, because, the way to get over it is somehow just in a difficult situation to get back home. Now, I thought that the story was going to take place, around his son and his father and him just trying to teach him how to do this, and somehow the infected gets involved and they're like stranded, kind of. No, it takes a different turn that actually I really enjoy. I think it got me emotionally invested. It got me very, involved with the story that they were telling and the characters. Now, one thing I do want to say, man, the zombies in this, they felt so real. Now, we know how Danny Boyle did the first one with the real, like, choppy shots and everything. And we do get some hints at that with this one. And like I said, one thing I will say that I could complain about is just the CGI. When we get it, you could kind of tell that it's CGI. And I don't know if it's because they actually had, like, iPhones and things like that, and that's what kind of made it look that way. But we could see, the moments when they're having CGI. Now, one thing I also want to say is this movie really will have you in your emotions. It has a lot of emotional scenes where you're feeling for certain characters and you're hoping that things play out different for certain characters, because at this point, once you start getting, you know, the emotional scenes, you're already invested in these characters. Now, moving forward, once again, touching on this kid, Spike, from the moment you see him on a screen, he becomes your favorite character. This little boy, you know, he's the MVP. He's carrying the story, and you just want to see him do good in this story, and, you know, hope that he makes it out. And one thing I do want to say, man, Danny Boyle and Alex Garland, what the hell, man? So we got these zombies, right? But then we got these new versions of zombies that they call Alpha. Their Johnsons is literally slapping the screen. Like, y'all know what I mean by Johnsons. Their Johnsons is literally flying everywhere and slapping the screen. That's probably the scariest thing of the movie. But nah, all jokes aside, they went there with this. And it's a part where I really did enjoy, where it is involving Dr. Kelson and the mother and Spike. It was something about that scene that just hit home for me, and I think it's going to hit home for a lot of people once they watch it, if you're invested in the story, because once again, I think this can hit or miss for people. I think some people are expecting, you know, like a real live direct sequel to 28 Days Later, when this is kind of like that, but it's almost like a coming of age story for the little boy Spike. You know, it's one of those stories. That's the best way to put it. I think that 28 Years Later is a coming of age story because we already know that Danny Boyle and Alex Garland plan on making this a trilogy. So I think this is just basically them setting up their trilogy. I really did enjoy the scenes that, you know, we had on the screen with Eric and Spike. Eric is actually somebody that's a part of this story that is very interesting. He's a very interesting character. But overall with this, I really did like, you know, the moments they put us in suspense, and when they got like in situations where things got tight and, you know, you're hoping that the characters make it out, they really got us good. Like, I was like, man, I hope this character makes it out. It kept me on my toes a lot. It had me feeling a lot of ways. It had me feeling, you know, a little nervous. It had me feeling, you know, emotional, and just made me want things to just keep going. I want to see more from, especially Dr. Kelson. I want to see more from that character. I feel like we got a lot, but we didn't get too much. We didn't get too much with that character, but that character was very interesting, you know. And the final act of this, it really is kind of setting up for a trilogy, in my opinion. But it's a lot of things going on with 28 Years Later that I feel like it has callbacks to the first one, and it makes you know that, you know, they're trying to do something different. They don't want to do a thing where it feels repetitive to the previous films and it's just like any other zombie movie. I think what makes this stand out the most is just us being, you know, involved in the characters. The characters is what carries this movie, and I love when characters carry a movie because it makes you, you know, want to keep them safe. It makes you want to know more about them and backstories and stuff like that. So overall, this was good. When we got the zombies, we got them, and I loved like the way they were shooting the zombies, like same as the first movie from Danny Boyle, 28 Days, like those up close choppy shots, and they're running past the camera real quick, and we see something that they're trying to do new with this, where it's like almost like they're putting up screenshots on a screen of these zombies as they're running to make it feel like choppy, but in a sharper way than the first one. But overall, I feel like I had a good time with this, and it was great. And it was great storytelling, you know, great action. And overall, man, like I said, I think you guys should check it out. This is one of the highlighted zombie movies that I think that's out there in horror. And yeah, man, definitely check it out. If I had to rate this movie 28 Years Later, I would probably give it a 9 out of 10. It's solid. It's solid. Go check out Danny Boyle's 28 Years Later, and I can't wait to see what they do with this trilogy, man. With that being said, I want y'all to watch some horror movies. Stay scary out there, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.